We'll now move on to a video presentation from Professor Shakuntala Gavday. This is a video presentation again, and the topic is a very interesting one. It is the topic is titled Eschatology in Kevalādvaitavedānta. Eschatology. So I had to look up this word exactly what it is. And to those of you who haven't heard this English word, it is the theology concerned with death, judgment, and final destiny of the soul and of humankind. It's almost like anything to do with the end of this world. So a brief biography about Dr. Shakuntara Gavday. She is an assistant professor in the Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai. She's also the coordinator for the section of World Religion and Philosophy and for Marathi Vishwakosha. She's the first ranker and gold medalist in BA Sanskrit and MA Sanskrit Vedanta. She has done Master of Philosophy in the topic Eschatology in Upanishads and PhD on the topic Eschatology in Vedic Literature compared with the Western philosophy. Her areas of interest include Vedanta, religious studies, comparative philosophy, Purana studies, and aesthetics. And how wonderful we get this opportunity to listen to so many beautiful souls from all over India and around the world. Dr. Shakuntala Gavday is the author of research papers pertaining to comparative philosophy, which are published in renowned journals. She has presented papers at national, international seminars, including World Sanskrit conferences. She is a resource person for courses on Upanishads, leadership science, and aesthetics. She has conducted sessions on film and philosophy for easy understanding of philosophy through films. She was invited as a visiting fellow by Kelaniya University, Sri Lanka in 2017. She has completed the project on Bhagavata Purana under the auspices of fellowship conferred by Heras Institute of Indian History and Culture, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and the Sir Dorabaji Tata Trust. You can learn more about her. We will add the URL in the chat box, shakuntalagavday.com. So with that, I request the organizing team to play her video, Eschatology in Kevalādvaitavedānta.
Namo Namaha. I am happy to participate in the global festival on oneness organized by Advaita Academy. Today I am going to speak on eschatology according to Shankara Vedanta. So first let us understand what is eschatology. The word eschatology is formed out of two words, eschatos and logos. The Greek word eschatos means end. So it is a science related to end. It generally works on two levels, micro and macro. On macro level, it deals with the end of the world or universe. On micro level, it deals with the end of an individual, that is death. So it refers to the journey after death, transmigration, passage of the dead, rebirth, as well as liberation. Now Sanskrit parallel for eschatology can be thought as Utkramana Shastra, because the word Utkramana is formed out of the root krama plus ut prefix, which means to step out, to leave, to depart. So Utkramana Shastra deals with the journey after death. Shankaracharya established the philosophy of absolute monism, that is Kevalādvaita, in which there is absolute reality of Nirguna Brahman. There is Paramarthiki Satta, on which only Brahman exists, which is without form, quality and any distinctions. So it is worthwhile to think how eschatology is thought in Shankaracharya's philosophical standpoint. In Brahma Sutras, 3rd and fourth adhyaya is called as sadhanadhyaya and phaladhyaya. So Shankaracharya discusses various views on eschatology in third and fourth adhyaya of Brahma Sutras while writing commentary on it. In the beginning, he clarifies that तत्र प्रथमे तावत् पादे पंचाग्निविद्यामाश्रित्य संसार गति प्रभेदः प्रदर्श्यते वैराग्य हेतोः. That such thoughts related to samsara gati or the gamana agamana are presented henceforth for the sake of creating vairagya, that is detachment in the mind of sadhaka, because vairagya is considered as the means, one of the means for liberation. Eschatology begins with the death and ends with the liberation. Eschatology is rooted in the theory of karmans. Therefore, there is no life after death once there is liberation. So it differs for the ignorant, meritorious and enlightened. Now let us understand eschatology in Shankara Vedanta on the basis of 3 points, that is departure of the soul, transmigration and liberation. Now let us come to first, that is departure of the soul. Now what is death? Death is regarded as the departure of the soul from the body, because death is the end of the physical body. It is not a complete end, otherwise it will be liberation even for an ignorant. So even for the dead, 5 elements, that is Mahabhutas, accompany the soul. This is proved by Shankaracharya in the sutra Tadantara Pratipattau Sanhatihi Samparishvaktaha Prashna Nirupanabhyam. In the sutra Tadapitehe Samsara Vyapadeshat, he emphasizes the fact that group of subtle elements accompanies the soul till complete liberation. Otherwise, all will get liberation after death if all limiting agents would become extinct. As a result, all scriptures would be useless as they are nothing but moksha shastras. Anyatha hi sarvah prana samaya eva upadhi pratyasthamayad atyantam brahma sampadyeta. Tatra vidhishastram anarthakam syat vidyashastram cha mithya jnana nimittascha bandho न सम्यक ज्ञानादृते विस्रंसितुम हरहति. तस्मात् तत्प्रकृतित्वेपि सुषुप्ति प्रलयवत् बीज भाव अवशेषैः एव एषा सत्संपत्तिरिति. So elements which accompany the soul are not gross but minute in nature as also in size. This is explored in the sutra Sukshmam Pramanascha Tathopalabdhehe. So Shankaracharya says while commenting, Nadi Nishkramana Shravanadibhyah Asya Saukshmyam Upalabhyate Tatra Tanutvat Sanchara Upapattihi Svachhatvacha Apratighata Upapattihi Ataevacha Dehan Nirghachan Parashvasthaihi na upalabhyate. So these elements which accompany the soul are subtle in nature, so they cannot be seen by the people around. So it is possible for it to move through the nerves because of its minuteness in size, and it is unobstructed because of its fineness, its nature. It is because of this fact again that this group of subtle elements is not perceived by people nearby when it departs from the body. Tathahi brutavasthayam avasthitepi dehe vidyamaneshu apicha rupadishu dehaguneshu na ushma upalabhyate jivad avasthayam evatu upalabhyate iti ataha upapadyate prasiddha sharira vyatirikta vyapashraya eva esha ushma iti. So it is very clear that the ushma which belongs to body belongs to exactly what? He says it stands to reason that this head belongs to something other than the well known gross body. In support of this, Shankaracharya cites this Vedic text. It is warm indeed so long as it lives, and cold when he dies. Ushna eva jivishyan, shito marishyan. The ignorant man moves resting on subtle elements constituting the seed of the next body, and under the impulsion of his past works for the sake of fresh experience in new body. Now, departure of the organs is also very well explained in our Upanishadic text. So, regarding the departure of the organs, it is said in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, when the soul departs, the prana follows. When the prana departs, all the organs follow. Again it says, when the man dies, the speech merges in fire. These two references about the departure of prana and merging organs are subject of discussion in Brahma Sutra 3.1.3 and 4. Here Shankaracharya interprets these references from Brihadaranyaka Upanishads as, he says, Vagadi adhishthatrinam agnyadi devatanam Vagadi upakarinam marana kale upakara nivrutti matram apeksha Vagadayah agnyadin gacchati iti upacharyate. That presiding deities of the organs cease to favor organs at the time of death. So it is called in figurative way that these organs enter into the fire, etc. So in short, this passage is not to be taken in literal sense. Again it is said in Chandogya Upanishad that when this man is about to die, his speech is withdrawn into mind, the mind into the vital force into fire, and fire into the supreme deity. Asya purushasya prayato vang manasi sampadyate manah prane pranah tejasi tejah parasyam devatayam. So Shankaracharya says it clearly. Shruti should not be understood in literal sense, as mind is not the material cause of speech. So only function of the organ of speech merges into the mind at the time of death. This is commented by Shankaracharya on the sutra Vang Manasi Darshanat Shabdacha. And for the same reason, all functions of all organs get merged in the mind, into the mind. That is stated in the sutra Ata eva sarvani anu. Chandogya Upanishad further says that mind merges in the prana. When all the functions of organs are withdrawn into the mind, then it merges in prana. In the Brahma Sutra, Tan Manah Pranah Uttarat. Here also Shankaracharya interprets that it is to be understood that when this mind merges in prana, it does so through the absorption of its functions. It is seen that when a man wants to sleep or is about to die, the activities of the mind are seen to cease, even while the function of prana, consisting its vibration, still persists. When the soul departs, prana with all the organs follow. It means prana merges into the soul. It is called as, it is referred as adhyaksha. So adhyakshe tad upagamadibhyah. Now Upanishads also discuss about the departure of self through a particular limb. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, the top of the heart of the dying person brightens. Through that brightened top, the soul departs, either through the eyes or through the head or through the other part of the body. The nerves of the heart are 101 in number. One of them passes through the crown of the head. Only enlightened soul departs through this nerve and attains immortality. Kathopanishad mentions that Jivan Mukta gets immortality going up through that nerve. It is discussed in the Brahma Sutra. Tad okogra jvalanam tat prakashitadvaro vidya samarthyat tat shesha gatyanu smriti yogacha hardanu gruhitaha shatadhikaya. So this sutra discusses this issue, and here Shankaracharya clarifies that Shruyate tasya etasya hridayasya agram pradyotate तेन प्रद्योतेन एष आत्मा निष्कासति चक्षुष्टो वा मूर्धनो वा अन्येभ्यो वा शरीरदेशेभ्य. Then he says kutaha vidya samarthyat यदि विद्वान् अपि इतरवत् यतः कुतश्चित् देहदेशाद् उत्क्रामेत् नैव उत्कृष्टं लोकं लभेत् अनर्थिका एव विद्या स्यात्. So dependent on the actions, karmans, soul departs through particular organ. The self departs through the eye if the man of knowledge is going to attain the world of sun with his virtuous action. If soul has poor storage of karmans or storage of evil karmans, then it departs through the lower organs. Such a soul goes to lower world, which is full of pain, miseries and sorrows. The soul of the knower of Brahman, that is enlightened person, follows the rays of the sun. It is discussed in Rashmi-anusari. The connection between the nerves of the heart and the sun's rays is shown in Chandogya Upanishad. It is said then when anyone departs from his body, goes up along these rays, and going through that nerve one gets immortality. So while emerging through the 101st nerve, he goes out along with the rays. Mode of the departure at the time of death is the same for the knower of Saguna Brahman and ignorant up to the beginning of the path of the gods. The man of knowledge pursues the path through the nerve, passing out of the crown of head and lighted up by knowledge, leading to liberation. It is said by Shankaracharya, avidvan deha bija bhutani bhuta sukshmani ashritya karma prayukto deha grahanam anubhavitum samsarati vidvanstu jnana prakashitam moksha nadi dvaram ashrayate. So enlightened person departs through moksha nadi, whereas other, that is maybe meritorious people or ignorant ones, depart through other nerves which are not responsible for revelation. Now we come to another point, that is transmigration, which includes the journey of the dead through different paths, different realms like heaven and hell, and as well as rebirth. After the departure of the soul from body, soul attains particular path according to one's own karmans. Devayana and Pitruyana, these two paths are described right from the Rigveda. They are also described in Upanishads. Devayana is the path of gods because gods travel by this path. It is also called as Archiradi Marga because the first characteristic or first halt of this path is called as Archis, which means light. It is as bright as Archis, that is fire. It is considered as the path of truth. Satyena pantho vitato devayana. It is called as Uttarayana. It is associated with Uttarayana because a person who departs from this Devayana attains the northern course of the sun, that is Uttarayana. So it is said that enlightened people, the seer, it is said in Mundaka Upanishad. So truthful people attain this path after death. The seers who are free from deceit, diplomacy, pride and falsehood, free from desires, ascend by this path and attain the supreme treasure attainable through truth. So there is ascent for this path, that is the souls departed through Devayana ascend by this path. They first attain Archis, that is light, then day, that is Dina, then bright fortnight, that is Shukla Paksha, then Uttarayana, then Samvatsara, Surya, then Chandra, then Vidyut, and ultimately they attain Brahman. So the travelers of Devayana attain Brahman, so they are naturally freed from the further course of transmigration and the wheel of birth and death forever. There is no descent again to the worldly life. Shankaracharya has reconciled all Shruti statements regarding the description of the path of Devayana, and he comments in Archiradinam Tat Prathithehe that though this path is described in different Upanishads with variety of features and therefore indicated in certain places with few of the characteristics, then also the path is same. There are no variations. Then another path is Pitruyana. As the name implies, it is the path of Pitrus, because it is said that Pitrus departed from this path. It is so called as Dhumadi Marga, because its feature is Dhuma, that is smoke or darkness. It is also called as Dakshinayana, because soul departing from this path attain the course of sun, which is southward. Those who are engaged in the sacrifices and philanthropic works of public utility, like digging the wells, giving gifts to others, and engage in philanthropic works, attain Pitruyana. This path is meant for meritorious people. So the difference is clear. Devayana is meant for those who are enlightened, whereas Pitruyana is for meritorious people. Now for Pitruyana, there is ascent as well as descent. The soul who have departed, souls departing by Pitruyana first attain Dhuma, then Ratrihi, then Krishna Pakshaha, then Dakshinayanam, then Pitrulokaha, then Akasha, then Chandra. And they of course spend their time in Chandraloka. They experience the fruits of karmans in Chandraloka. They exhaust their good karmans in Chandraloka. But after this, there is descent. As soon as their karmans, good karmans, get exhausted, they descend. Now, while descending, first they attain Akasha, then Vayu, then Dhuma, then Abra, then Parjanya, then Oshadhi, then Purusha, then Stri, and finally they attain birth. Abram bhutva megho bhavati, megho bhatva pravarshati, ta iha vrihi yava oshadhi vanaspataya stilamashaha iti jayante. It is said in Chandogya Upanishad. So man eats the food and then through semen it goes to the body of woman and then finally it takes birth. This is explained in Panchagni Vidya with the metaphor of sacrifice by saying that Panchamyam ahuto apaha purusha vachaso bhavati. Now there are two paths, one for enlightened souls and another for meritorious people. So what is the fate of evildoers? Are they freed from these two paths? Where they go? So Shankaracharya says that Tasmat Ishtadikarinaha eva chandram samarohanti na itare. Those who have done good works attain Chandraloka, not others. So only meritorious souls enjoy in the lunar world and not the others. Evildoer enter into the abode of Yama. They suffer the torments of the hell. Shankaracharya explained this in the sutra Sanyamane tu anubhuya itaresham aroha avaroha tat gati darshanat. He cites the reference from Kathopanishad. Ayam loko nasti paraitamani punaha punaha vasham apadyate me. So such people definitely again fall into samsara. Now there is a third path which is described in Chandogya Upanishad, that is called as Jayasvam Riyasvam, which means to take birth and to die. Those who do not go neither by Devayana nor by Pitruyana attain this third state. Means it is of continuous births and deaths. So Shankaracharya says while commenting on the Chandogya Upanishad, Janana Marana Kshanena eva kalayapana bhavati natu kriyasu shobhaneshu bhogeshu va kalaha asti ityartha. So this is the path of recurrent births. So there is no time for enjoying any kind of happiness. Now rebirth, we come to rebirth. Those who attain Pitruyana go to the realm of moon, enjoy their karmans and come back with some remnants of actions. And therefore there is scope to rebirth. Because on the basis of residual karmans, that is karmanushaya, they attain the next birth. Otherwise, if all the karmans get exhausted in the Chandraloka, there will be no scope to further birth. They will be liberated because their all karmans will get destroyed, exhausted in the lunar world. So it is discussed in the sutra Krutatye Anushayavan Drushtasmrutibhyam Yathetamanevam cha. So Shankaracharya clarifies this very beautifully. He says, Yena karma vrundena chandra samarudhaha falopabhogaya tasmin upabhogena kshiyate tesham yad apmayam shariram chandramasi upabhogaya arabdham tad upabhoga kshaya darshana shokagni samparkat praviliyate savitru kirana samparkadiva himakarakaha. The watery body that has been created for the soul, for the enjoyment in the lunar world, gets evaporated by the touch of the fire of sorrow enkindled at the sight of exhaustion of enjoyment, like snow meeting the touch of the sun's rays, or the solidity of clarified butter being removed by the touch of the flames of sacrificial fire. So hence the soul returns with the residual karmans itself. This is proved on the basis of Shruti as well as Pratyaksha Pramana by Shankaracharya. There is direct evidence in Chandogya Upanishad. Tadya iha ramaniya charanaha abhyasho ha yatte ramaniyam yonim apadderan brahmana yonim va kshatriya yonim va vaishya yonim va athaya iha kapuya charanaha abhyasho ha yatte kapuyam yonim apadderan ashva yonim va sukara yonim va chandala yonim va. So Chandogya Upanishad clearly says that those who have good karmans, that is ramaniya charanaha, will attain good birth, and those who have bad karmans, that is kapuya charanaha, will attain lower kind of birth. So Pratyaksha Pramana, which is provided by Shankaracharya, is that karma phalam anubhuya tatah sheshena vishishta desha jati kula rupa ayu shruta vritta vitta sukha medhaso janma pratipadyate. It is experience in the worldly life that everyone is born in different situation. So it is justified that everybody has different stock of residual karmans. The concept of residual karmans may lead to non-liberation. Shesha karma sadbhave anirmoksha prasangaha. Because if there is always some part of karmans which are remnants, then no one will get moksha. But Shankaracharya clarifies that samyak darshanat ashesha karma kshaya shrutehe. When right knowledge dawns, all the karmans are burned and there is immediate liberation. Now we come to liberation. Liberation is the complete path of cessation from samsara. Moksha is the end and goal of eschatology. Now according to Shankaracharya, Devayana is the path of moksha only for the knowers of or the worshippers of Saguna Brahman, and they attain Brahmaloka, which is the end and goal of Devayana. So Brahmaloka is generally eulogized as Yasmin arascha havai hanyascha arnavau Brahmaloke trutiyasyamito divi Yasmin aram madiyam saro Yasmin ashvathaha somavasano Yasmin aparajita Puhu brahmano yasminscha prabhuvimitam hiranmayam veshma yascha anekadha mantrarthavadadi pradesheshu prapachyate te tam prapya na chandralokad iva mukta bhogaha avartante. So this is the description of Brahmaloka. By going to this loka, enlightened souls do not return to this samsara. But according to Shankaracharya, this cannot be ultimate moksha. Ultimate moksha for Shankaracharya is merging into the supreme reality called as Brahman. So, for the knowers of Nirguna Brahma, there is no Brahmaloka. Knowers of Nirguna Brahman do not proceed by the path of Devayana. Though it is the path of liberation, Devayana is not meant for the knowers of Nirguna Brahman, but only for worshippers of Saguna Brahman. Those who are following different upasanas like Paryanka Vidya, Panchagani Vidya, Dahara Vidya, etc. Traveling and going cannot take place in case of knower of Nirguna Brahmans. He says, Katham hi niranjanaha aganta deshantaram gachet gantavyam cha paramam samyam na deshantara prapti ayattam iti anarthakyameva atra gatehe manyamahe. So in the case of men who realize Brahmatmaikya, whose all desires are extinguished, whose karmans are burnt away by the fire of knowledge, journey by any path is meaningless. Such illumined souls attain Brahman in that very life without going anywhere. So they can get Jivan Mukti or Sadhyo Mukti. So there is no Utkramana for one who has realized Nirguna Brahman. Knower of Brahman merges in Brahman, irrespective of dying in the night or Dakshinayana. Merging of organs into speech, etc., as stated earlier, is also not applicable to the knowers of Nirguna Brahman. Enlightened souls attain absolute non-distinction with Brahman. It is stated in Avibhago Vachanat on the basis of Prashnopanishad, where it is said that just as different rivers lose their identity pertaining to names and forms after unification with ocean, similarly, when their names and forms are destroyed and they are simply called Purusha, such a man of realization is without constituents and immortal. Sa eshaha akalaha amruto bhavati. So darkness of ignorance is totally vanished in their case as a result of their highest knowledge of absolute Brahman. Therefore, such illumined souls attain liberation forever and they do not return to this world. Worshippers of Sarguna Brahman also do not return to this world, as they also aim at Nirguna Brahman as ultimate goal. Knowers of Saguna Brahman attain Krama Mukti, whereas Nirguna Brahman attains Sadhyo Mukti. In the last sutra, Anavrutti Shabdat, Anavrutti, that is non-return of the soul after attaining liberation, is stated for both the knowers of Saguna and Nirguna Brahman. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Professor Shakuntala ji. That was a very interesting topic and really something that we haven't heard in a long time. Her contact information, for those of you interested, you can go to www.shakuntalagavday.com. I'm just going to put it here. So thank you for joining us on this day 29, session 1 of the Global Festival of Oneness, celebrating the life and works of Adi Shankara. I just cannot believe that we are almost towards the very end of this beautiful festival. And with all your support, I hope we can continue this in many other different ways to bring the nectar of Advaita to more people. So we'll have our next session on Tuesday evening India Standard Time. We again have two speakers. The first one at 6:30 p.m. will be a live talk by Sri Vishwa Adluri. He's going to be speaking to us about Mahabharata and the philosophical hermeneutics of Shankaracharya, followed by a video talk by Sri K.S. Maheshwaran, Sutra Prasthana Samarthana, establishing the importance of Brahma Sutra and its Bhashya. This talk will be in Sanskrit, and we will try and get someone to translate it at the end of it. So thank you all for joining. Again, our final session, the closing ceremony, is happening on May 27th. We have a session in the morning and the evening session on Wednesday at 6:15 p.m. We are starting 15 minutes early to also felicitate some of the speakers who we have invited for the final ceremony. And we also have an inspiring talk by Brahmasri Dr. Samaveda Shanmukha Sarmagaru, and the founder of Advaita Academy, Sri Harikiran will also be sharing his remarks and his big plans for Advaita Academy and these kind of festivals going forward. And we also have a very unique lecture demonstration and dance performance by Mrs. Rukmini, which you don't want to miss. So we have a very interesting and colorful and very inspirational closing ceremony planned on May 27th, Wednesday evening at 6:15 p.m. IST. So please tell your friends and let's make this festival, this grand festival, even more grand success by having a lot of attendees experience the power of Advaita. So thank you all. We'll see you in the evening, Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. for day 29 session 2. Namaste.